Maddsters! So today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of attending the University of Michigan. I'm currently a rising sophomore, undeclared right now. And today I wanted to highlight some of the really good things that Michigan has, but also some of the downsides of it. So when you guys are trying to figure out which school to go to, trying to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life, you guys have a good idea. I'm going to start off with some of the pros of the University of Michigan. First one that I thought of was the school year length. So Michigan has one of the shorter lengths. We just have 2 semesters, fall semester and winter semester, and we start, well, it kind of depends, but normally we start at the end of August. Some schools start in the middle of August, so I'm like the last person home out of my friends. And then we have a 2-day fall break in October, and then we get Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and then obviously that weekend off for Thanksgiving break. And then I think we have like 2.5 weeks for Christmas break. We do not have J-term, so some schools have the whole entire January off, where some people take extra classes or people go abroad, and we don't have that. So we just have, I'm not sure the exact number of days, but it's between 2 and 3 weeks. However, if you're rushing for a sorority, you do have to come back a couple days earlier. Then in the spring, or in the, I guess, winter term, we just have spring break, which is 1 week. And so because our breaks are so short, we end up getting out at the end of April or early May. So this year, my last final was April 29th, but a lot of people were done before me. Our school year is only from basically the beginning of September to the very end of April, so it's super quick, which is really nice. I think there's about 16 full weeks each semester. So yeah, I really like that about Michigan, because the summer's longer and just the school year is like in and out kind of thing. Okay, I've said it before, if this is the first video about Michigan that you guys have seen, but you'll understand that I just love the dining halls. The dining halls at Michigan and the overall food vibe at Michigan is just amazing. First, the dining halls are great. They have great options. I'm not a picky eater, but even if you are a picky eater, there should be at least something. There's always like a salad bar. There's always soups or pasta or cereal or yogurt every time. So I feel like you personally, unless you have some like insane dietary restriction, I feel like most people are fine. Obviously, dining hall food gets old after a little bit, but overall, I think that the dining halls at Michigan are great. And going off of that, Ann Arbor is a great food town. They have so many restaurants with so many varieties. I went to a ton this past year. I'm like 30 restaurants I've been to, and it's just been a great time. It's so fun. It does get expensive though, so that's another one of, well, that's con, I guess, but one of the pros is just Ann Arbor as a whole. And it's a great small college town. There's also a mall. It's called Briarwood Mall. You can take the bus up to it and it'll bring you there. And so that's nice. I love it. It's such a nice town. Definitely try to go to some of the restaurants in Ann Arbor because they are fantastic. Another pro of Michigan, I think, is the diversity. So like I said in previous videos, I grew up in pretty much like your basic white middle class suburb. And so going into Michigan, it was so big, and there's a lot of representation of ethnicities, I thought, compared to where I grew up, although some people thought the opposite. But I would say overall they do a decently good job of promoting diversity. There's a lot of ethnic clubs if you would like to join that. They have a bunch of different like interests and different people from different backgrounds. They also have a lot of international students, which is really cool, because you can meet kids from like all over the world. So I feel like that they're pretty diverse. Going off of that, another pro is that I feel like in the Midwest, people are a lot more friendly and nice. So like everyone, especially during the winter, is holding the door open for other people, like making sure that everyone gets in. In general, everyone is very nice, open, and accepting towards others. Like especially rushing in a sorority, I was like, oh, these girls are gonna be so rude to me. But everyone was super nice, everyone was super open, and just really positive. I wasn't expecting people to be rude, but I expected people to be more closed off, but I found the opposite, where people are very open and friendly just around campus and as a whole student body. Another thing is for academics, there is a ton of help available. So they have the math center, the Sweetland Center for Writing, and so they'll help you with your papers and stuff. They have the Science Learning Center where you can sign up for study groups. And then I'm pretty sure that they have a foreign language center. I haven't taken a foreign language class yet, but I know that's a thing. And so there's just a lot of resources that you can go to for help. There's always flyers everywhere for like private tutors if you need that. The Facebook pages for tutors are also very helpful. There's 24/7 online Ask a Librarian help if you need a book or anything from the library. So I feel like overall, for academics, they do want to help you succeed. However, you have to go out and advocate for yourself for that and try to find those programs or study groups that you need, because people aren't going to come to you. You have to go to them, if that makes sense. But there are a lot of resources available if you choose to use them. And of course, everyone knows about the Big House in Michigan School Spirits, which I agree, it lives up to the hype, definitely. Being in the Big House is so cool. On football Saturdays, literally all the streets in Ann Arbor are like maize and blue, and it's just a fun time, and everyone's super excited and super hyped up, and it's really fun. And so I think that is one of the big draws of Michigan, is the athletics, you know, all the games and all that stuff. I don't even like football that much, but I go to the games because they're fun. I don't stay the whole time because it gets cold, but I go and it's a good time. And also even the other sports like basketball games are really big, and hockey games. People really like hockey games. I haven't been yet, but I do plan to go eventually. I've been to volleyball games. Those are awesome. Gymnastics meets are cool. I went to a couple soccer games. There's a ton of school spirits all over Ann Arbor, which is really cool to see. Another pro that I found, especially joining Greek life, was the fact that Greek life isn't, I mean, I think it's about 25% of the student body is in Greek life, but it's not as big of a deal as, say, like Alabama, where if you're not in Greek life, like you don't have any friends. It's very low key, and you can still make friends outside of your sorority or fraternity. It's not like binding, you know, like you do have those Greek life friends, but you can also branch out into your other clubs. So I thought that was really nice, just because there's not as much pressure to like get into the top tier or whatever. That just makes Greek life like more positive and more welcoming, that you don't have to do it. It's totally your choice. There's a lot of people not in it. There's a lot of people in it. So just because it's not as big of a deal on campus, I feel like it makes it easier to transition into if you are considering doing that. I didn't feel like everyone's in Greek life, so I have to be in Greek life. It was just kind of my decision, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh. And then also, of course, the squirrels on the diag. I love the squirrels. I love to go and feed them. You just like get a little peanut and they come up right to you and they will eat it out of your hand. It is so sweet. And I love the squirrels so much. I miss them. They are the coolest squirrels ever. And then I come home and there's no squirrels, and they're all so skinny here, and they won't eat anything that I give them. So yes, the Michigan squirrels are amazing, and I miss them, and I want to go back and feed them. And of course, the biggest pro of going to Michigan is obviously the academics. By attending Michigan, you know that you're getting a great education, and it's world-renowned, so people all over the world know Michigan and know the name and know that you have a great degree and a great educational background by graduating from that school. So I feel like that's just the biggest pros of going to such a high caliber college. And so I think that's about it for the pros, and now I'll move on to the cons. Number one is the weather. The weather, just in the Midwest in general, because I'm from the Midwest too, it's just terrible. I hate the weather. In September, it's super nice, you know, still can get super hot, and then it gets like really cold. And sometimes in October, like it's snowing. Around Halloween, it might snow, it might not. November, it gets even colder. And then December and January and February, you're just all snowy. And so because of that, the weather's terrible. And not only is it snowing, especially like in January and February, and also into March, and even April. It's just dark. I had early classes, so I was up at like 7. You wake up, it's dark. Then you're in classes, you do get to walk around outside in the cold for a little bit, and then you get back to your room and it's dark. So the sun rarely comes out, and when it comes out, especially in the winter, it looks so nice because it's sunny and it's so bright, and you just like think it's gonna be so nice outside, and then it's just freezing cold. The weather is just terrible, like awful. And it'll go from like -degree parka weather to the next day literally being 50, where you can just walk out in a sweatshirt. It's annoying, but you just kind of deal with it, I guess. There was a time in the middle of the year where I was like, I'm going to Florida. I have friends who go to college in Florida, and it just looks like a fun time. It's so warm there. And I was like, I'm transferring. There's no way. I grew up in the Midwest. I don't want to be cold for the rest of my life. But then I stayed. You just deal with it, and you just, I don't know, wear your coat, bundle up. But the worst thing about it is you're in your coat, and then I start getting really hot and like sweaty as I'm walking to my class. And then in my class, I'm like sweating even more because I just walked like 15 minutes pretty fast in all these layers. And so then I'm just spending the whole entire class like really hot. And then by the time I cool off, the class is over, I have to put my coat back on, and it's annoying. You're just never comfortable in the is just, I guess this is like kind of inevitable, but just the tuition is pretty high, and it is costly to live in Ann Arbor. Once you move out of the dorms, you have to find either a house or an apartment. The lowest rates I have personally heard of for an apartment is $600 a month, and that is a 2-bedroom apartment fitting 4 people. But otherwise, apartments and houses can range, it depends on the house and how many people you're living with, and then all your electricity, water, internet bills. But normally, like, I've heard that rent ranges from $700 to even up to $1,000 a month. So that's kind of a lot of money. Plus all of your food and going to the grocery store. And there's really no close grocery store on campus. There's Walgreens and there's 7-Eleven, which are more convenience stores. But everything else, you can take the bus, or you do need a car or like an Uber or something. So that's definitely a downside. Just the cost of living is pretty high. Oh, one more thing I just thought about that also adds into the expenses of Michigan is parking. And if you bring your car, you have to pay for street parking, which is the meter. I don't know how much you have to pay per hour, but it adds up. There's just not very much parking unless you get there early. So as a first year, you definitely do not need a car. Once you get your own house or apartment or living situation, then of course you can probably bring a car, but then you may have to pay for your parking space, or you might just end up leaving it at your house. So yeah, parking is not that good, and you have to pay a lot for it. Not only like living and tuition, but also sometimes the teachers will have you buy a course pack. So this is my Bio 172 course pack. It was like, I don't know, $25 almost. And it's just like the PowerPoint notes all printed out for you. And so it is helpful to have, but like this is just an extra expense. And it really depends on the class, but for stats, like I had to buy the online homework system. That was like almost $40. So that does add up, which is very unfortunate. Let me tell you, don't buy the textbooks. Do not ever buy your textbooks. 1, because most of the time you will not read it unless you like really learn well off of textbooks. You're not going to read it. 2, if you need the textbook, you can probably do a deep, like real deep web search, and you can probably find a PDF of it somewhere. Or some people on the Facebook page are like super nice and will like just email out the online book versions of it. Or 3, you can rent it. So I actually rented my Bio 172 textbook, and it was great. It was like $16 for the whole year. Amazon just sent it to me, and then at the end of the year I just sent it back. Super easy. So I would recommend renting it or trying to find a free one online. This past year, I got 4 textbooks. I read 0 of them. They were just sitting there. Like, I would browse it, but I didn't actually do the reading. No one, if you do the reading, like, good for you, but no one does it. It was a waste of money for me to buy that bio textbook because I would read it and I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then they would just teach it to you anyways. So yes, the textbooks can be helpful and they're definitely good for you to read. But then if you're not absorbing any of the information, then is it really worth it? I really don't think so. So don't waste your money on it, okay? Okay, another thing that I do not like about Michigan is North Campus. Well, I can't really have a hate for it because I got lucky because I'm living on West Quad, but I feel for my friends who had to live on North. So basically, there's another campus, there's Central Campus where everything is, then there's North Campus, which is like 15-minute bus ride away from everything else. They have 2 dorms up there, and a lot of the engineering and art, like stamps classes, are up there. It's just a pain to like get up there and stuff. I've only been up there once for orientation. I would love to go again because I would love to eat at the Bursley Dining Hall. I would love to try that. But, you know, I don't really want to sit on a bus just to go eat a meal. And I don't even have a dining plan anymore. But that is very unfortunate, and I'm very sorry if you get stuck on North as a freshman because that's really rough. But I do hear that you make a lot of good friends up there just because of the misery. But it's okay, you'll have a fine time. Another thing is Oxford housing. So there's like Central Campus housing, which is super nice and like where everyone wants to be. There's North where no one wants to be. And then Oxford is like not central, but it's still a 20-minute walk from Central Campus. And so having to live out there is kind of difficult too, just because it's far. I mean, there are buses, but still, it's just a hike. So I don't really like that. I would love to go to their dining hall too. I never went, but I know where it is. There's also another random dorm. It's called Fletcher. Most people have no idea where it is. I only know where it is because I was trying to get to the IM building, which is the gym, and I got lost and I was like, oh, there's Fletcher. So it's right by the IM building. There's no dining hall. The closest dining hall is South Quad, which is like a 10-minute walk, which is just awful. I feel so bad for you guys. But I think people like it there just because it's so small. Dorm location situation is not necessarily the best just because like if you're on North or in Oxford, it's just a hike. Even the hill's not that bad. It's like 15 minutes away from Central Campus, 10-15 minute walk, depending on where you're going. You really wish and pray that you are in West, South, or East Quad. Another con that I found was how big Michigan was. Not a con per se, but just me, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I'm just in a very middle class suburb, and my high school was just your basic public high school. You know, we had like 300, 400 in each graduating class. So relatively small, but I was super involved. I did a sport. I did NHS, student council, like all the usual stuff. And so I felt very well connected. I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of teachers and everything. But Michigan, it's so big. You're walking for like 10-15 minutes and you see nobody that you know, which is cool because you can like reinvent yourself and stuff. But that was definitely a shock to me just because I was used to being a big fish in a small pond, and then I went to like small fish in a big pond. So I don't think it's necessarily bad. It was just different for me. And I was just like, whoa, I actually have to work to like get involved and like find my place here because it's so big. I've gotten a lot of questions about MLCs, which is Michigan Learning Community. It's a program for first years where there's a bunch of different interests. I'll put the link below of the website, but you basically have the same interests as some other people and you guys live all in the same area, which I think is super nice, and that's a great idea. If you guys are interested in that, I would recommend doing it just because right off the bat, you are connected with people with the same interests as you, and living together is super helpful because the more you see someone, the better your relationship. So I feel like any way that you can make the big, huge, overwhelming, huge amount of people on a huge campus feel smaller and more intimate is through like an MLC or like clubs and stuff. Another con of having a lot of people go to your school is scheduling. And I've touched on it before, but scheduling is literally the worst experience of your whole entire life. Especially as a freshman, there's so many people, so all the spots get taken up. super quickly. You either don't get the time you want, you don't get the professor you want, you don't get the location you want, and you're just stuck with like kind of a bad schedule sometimes, which is just really annoying just because there's a ton of kids there. Once you figure out how to register and stuff, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I need so many backups because these are all going to be full. So that's annoying. You can't get on the wait list, which is hit or miss. I personally have gotten off of the wait list and into the class every time. However, I am on a wait list right now for the fall semester, and I don't know if I'm going to get on or not, so we'll see about that. And you can also swap classes. I've done that once. I just swapped a class time. That is also hit or miss in case a spot opens up. The first like couple weeks, there's kind of a lot of movement in and out of your classes in general. But yeah, scheduling is just terrible. Literally, I don't stress about school. You know, school you just go through and you do it. But scheduling, it's so unpredictable. It's so frustrating. And also, since there's a lot of people, I feel like you just never stop applying to stuff. For example, I tried rushing a business frat. You submit your application and then you go through like, oh, meet everyone. It's super overwhelming. It's like you're rushing, I guess. You go to like a location, you just try to meet as many of the members as you can, and then they go through your application, and if you get past that round, then you get like a second interview, and then you have like 2 case studies where they give you like an impossible problem. They try to ask you how you think. And so that is for engineering and business frats. You apply to get into Michigan, and then you have to apply to all of these clubs. One of my friends joined a consulting club. It literally went from, I can't remember the number, it was like 300 to 500 applicants down to 15 people. Like, that's just so much work, and it's so much time. You spend all this time rushing, doing your interviews, doing your case studies, and maybe you're number 16 and you don't get it. So lucky for them, like they got in, but not everyone gets in. And so that's just like really hard, I guess. And I understand why it's hard because there's so many kids who want to be in the club, but it's like a high caliber club, so you can't take everyone. It's just like kind of frustrating when you keep rushing and you keep trying to get in and you just don't. Because a lot of it does have to do with personal connections, which is very unfortunate, but you also had to build those. So, and yes, there are a ton of clubs that have no interviews, no applications, anyone can join, which are awesome. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's those clubs that like literally take 10 people per semester. So I don't know, it's just frustrating. And no, I did not get into that business frat. One more con, the bus system. Yes, I am very thankful that Ann Arbor has buses and Michigan has buses, because otherwise you would not be able to go up to North Campus, or it's just easier when you have bus, especially when it's cold. However, I did have to take the bus every single day because I worked with the gymnastics team, and now I'm going back to the bus stop again. And so that was just very annoying and frustrating because the buses wouldn't come on time or they'd be late, so you would just stand at the bus station and it might be cold, it might be super hot, forever. One time I literally waited for like almost an hour. The buses are kind of unreliable, but it'll help you get around. I mean, they took me up to Briarwood, which is nice. I think the blue buses are better. There's 2 bus systems. There's the blue buses that are through the University of Michigan. So I think those are slightly better, but they can still be late just because things get delayed. You know, people are crossing the streets all the time, and it's just a little slower than you would expect. And then there's also the ride, which are the white buses, and those will take you like around Ann Arbor. So they will bring you like everywhere, which I guess is nice because you could technically go a lot of places, but those are not as great. It was just very frustrating. So yeah. Okay, and that is it for my pros and cons of the University of Michigan. I hope you guys liked it, and please let me know if there's any way that I can improve my videos or any other content that you guys would like to see. Thank you guys so much for watching, and bye, Maddsters!